In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Milky Way bridge, where starlight danced between galaxies, there lurked something that made even the bravest spacefaring civilizations wet their respective pants, or whatever passed for pants in their cultures. The Galactic Beast, as the United Species Council had so creatively dubbed it, was about as subtle as a supernova at a meditation retreat. Picture, if you will, a creature so massive it used neutron stars as breath mints. Its scales, if you could call those reality-warping patches of void scales, rippled with colors that shouldn't exist in our dimension. The beast had developed quite the reputation for its unique dining habits, treating entire solar systems like an all-you-can-eat buffet. It wasn't picky either. Gas giants, rocky planets, asteroid belts, everything went down its gullet with the same enthusiastic disregard for galactic real estate values. The Zizitherians, those supposedly advanced beings with their quantum origami ships, tried fighting it first. "We'll fold space-time around it," they declared confidently. The beast responded by using their finest warships as toothpicks. The mechanical collective of Proxima Beta sent their most advanced AI-driven armada. The beast treated it like a party of appetizers, burping out perfectly polished hull fragments afterward. Even the ancient void dwellers with their mysterious tech that predated most galaxies gave it a shot. They attempted to trap it in a pocket dimension, which worked about as well as trying to contain a black hole in a paper bag. The beast simply yawned, creating 3 new nebulae in the process, and continued its merry way through the cosmos. The United Species Council had run out of options faster than a quantum computer runs calculations. Their latest emergency session had dissolved into what could only be described as an intergalactic panic attack. The hive mind of Betelgeuse, yes, that's actually their system's name, suggested building a giant space wall. The energy beings of Vega proposed merging all their consciousness into one super being, because clearly the only thing better than individual panic was collective hysteria. But it was the observations of Dr. Zelaxifor, a somewhat eccentric xenobiologist, that finally gave them pause. The beast, despite its size and appetite, showed signs of intelligence. It wasn't just mindlessly consuming, it was selecting, choosing, almost like a child picking through a plate of food. And that's when someone had the most brilliantly terrible idea in the history of brilliantly terrible ideas. If the beast was like a child, perhaps what it needed was another child. The emergency meeting of the United Species Council looked like the universe's most bizarre cocktail party, minus the cocktails and any semblance of party atmosphere. Representatives from across the galaxies crowded into the massive quantum-suspended chamber, their tentacles, appendages, and consciousness projection units all fidgeting with nervous energy. High Commissioner Zixthor, a being composed entirely of crystalline thought structures, clinked anxiously as they addressed the assembly. After careful consideration of Dr. Exelaxifor's observations, we propose, they paused, their crystal facets dimming slightly, a child ambassador program. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests, squeaks, and telepathic expletives that would make a space pirate blush. The hive mind of Betelgeuse buzzed so loudly it accidentally synchronized with the chamber's quantum resonance frequency, causing several delegates to temporarily exist in multiple dimensions at once. "You want to feed a child to that thing?" demanded Ambassador Kurt of the Silicon Solidarity, their volcanic surface bubbling with indignation. "Have we completely lost our collective marbles?" Dr. Zelaxifor floated forward, their gelatinous form rippling with excitement. "You misunderstand. We need a special child, one with extraordinary emotional intelligence, adaptability, and most importantly, an inability to shut up. Someone who can drive the beast so crazy it'll have to listen." The selection criteria were unusual, to say the least. The child needed to be from a species resilient enough to survive in various environments, crossing off the plasma people of Pulsar Prime, chatty enough to be impossible to ignore, eliminating the telepathic monks of Tau Ceti, and stubborn enough to not take cosmic annihilation for an answer. That's when the human ambassador cleared her throat. The entire chamber turned to look at the small, pink-skinned being from that backwater planet in the unfashionable western spiral arm of the Milky Way. "Have you ever met a human child?" The screening process was intense. Thousands of human children were evaluated based on their ability to ask why until their parents questioned their life choices, their skill at surviving seemingly unsurvivable situations, like falling from heights that would make safety engineers faint, and their natural talent for making friends with absolutely anything that moved, and several things that didn't. One child stood out, a quick-witted 8-year-old who had already managed to befriend 3 supposedly hostile alien species by teaching them something called patty cake, tamed a notoriously grumpy quantum AI by telling it bedtime stories, and once convinced a black hole to spit back out a research probe because sharing is caring. As the council reviewed the candidate's file, High Commissioner Zixthor's crystalline structure briefly displayed what appeared to be a smile. "Well," they chimed, "either this will save the galaxy, or we're about to witness the most entertaining apocalypse in cosmic history." The preparation process for Operation Child's Play, yes, someone in the council actually approved that name, was about as conventional as using a rubber duck to fix a quantum engine, which, surprisingly, the chosen child had actually done once during the testing phase. The training facility, hidden away on Jupiter's 69th moon, newly constructed for this purpose, looked like someone had combined a kindergarten, a military base, and a cosmic zoo, then sprinkled it with enough advanced technology to make even the mechanical collective jealous. The psychological evaluation team, led by Dr. Mergel of the Telepathic Institute, emerged from their first session looking thoroughly confused. "The child's mental resilience is unprecedented," they reported, all 7 of their eyes blinking asynchronously. When presented with a simulation of cosmic horror, they asked if it wanted to play hopscotch. When faced with existential dread, they suggested finger painting. "We're not sure if this indicates exceptional psychological fortitude or if human children are just naturally immune to sanity." The physical conditioning wasn't any less bizarre. The child mastered zero-gravity somersaults in hours, turned survival training into an impromptu dance party, and somehow managed to teach the facility's AI the concept of opposite day, leading to 12 hours of delightfully chaotic system reversals. The United Species Council spared no expense with the equipment. The child's spacesuit was a masterpiece of engineering, created by the finest minds in the galaxy. It was crafted from metamaterials that could withstand the pressure of a neutron star, lined with quantum-entangled comfort fabric, because even in face of cosmic horror, itchy suits are unacceptable, and equipped with enough backup systems to survive virtually anything the universe could throw at it. The helmet included a universal translator that could handle everything from electromagnetic pulses to interpretive dance. They also included what the engineering team called a survival kit, though it looked more like the contents of a child's pockets after a particularly adventurous day. There were quantum-stabilized snacks, because hungry children are grumpy children, a friendly AI companion programmed with every bedtime story in human history, and even a space-proof set of crayons, because you never know when you might need to draw a friendly picture for an eldritch cosmic horror. The last day before the mission was the hardest. The child's family gathered in a private chamber of the facility, its walls programmed to display a perfect Earth sunset. The parents, trying to maintain brave faces, hugged their little one tight. The mother adjusted the child's collar for the 100th time, fighting back tears as she tucked away a small, worn stuffed animal into the suit's special pocket, a tiny Earth elephant that had been in the family for generations. "Remember to brush your teeth," the father said, his voice cracking slightly, "even in space." The child just grinned, that special kind of smile that only kids can manage when adults are being silly about serious things. "Don't worry, I'm going to make a new friend, and maybe teach it some manners about eating other people's planets." Dr. Exlaxifor, watching from a respectful distance, turned to High Commissioner Zixthor and whispered, "You know, for the first time since this crisis began, I actually believe we might have a chance." The commissioner's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been a chuckle. Yes, because clearly the solution to our giant space monster problem was to find an even more unstoppable force, a human child with a mission. The procession to the feeding site, a term that made several council members visibly uncomfortable, was probably the most peculiar parade the galaxy had ever witnessed. The massive fleet of ships from various species formed what was supposed to be a solemn ceremonial formation, but looked more like a cosmic conga line. Leading the procession was the grand ceremonial vessel of the United Species Council, a ship so elaborate it made Las Vegas look subtle. Its quantum crystal hull sparkled with all the colors of the electromagnetic spectrum, plus several that physics hadn't got around to discovering yet. Behind it trailed representatives from every major galactic civilization, their ships arranged in order of diplomatic importance, which led to at least 3 minor diplomatic incidents and 1 accusations of cosmic line-cutting by the nebulae nomads. The child, standing at the observation deck of the lead vessel, was wearing the special suit and doing what kids do best, asking questions that made adults question their life choices. Why is that ship pink? It wasn't pink, it was existing in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Can we stop for ice cream? There were no ice cream shops in deep space. Are we there yet? This question caused the ship's AI to temporarily shut down in protest. The Galactic Beast was waiting in the designated sector, casually juggling neutron stars like a cosmic street performer. Several smaller species ships had to activate their anti-panic shields when they saw it up close for the first time. The beast's size defied comprehension. It made supermassive black holes look like pocket change. High Commissioner Zixthor's voice crackled over the fleet-wide communication system. Begin the approach protocol. The child's transport pod, a tear-shaped vessel that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd watched too many fairy tales, detached from the main ship. It was painted in cheerful colors because someone in engineering had insisted that if they were going to do this crazy thing, they might as well do it in style. As the pod approached the beast, various species reacted in their characteristic ways. The quantum collective calculated the odds of success and got a headache. The emotional empaths of Epsilon started stress-eating dark matter. The Silicon Solidarity began composing what they hoped wouldn't be their last will and testament. The hive mind of Betelgeuse actually fainted, causing a temporary disruption in their neural network. The child, meanwhile, was pressing their face against the pod's window with all the excitement of someone going to an amusement park rather than meeting a planet-eating cosmic horror. They had insisted on bringing their stuffed elephant along, which now sat proudly in the cockpit wearing its own tiny spacesuit, hastily made by a sympathetic engineer. The beast noticed the approaching pod, its impossible eyes, all several dozen of them, focused on the tiny vessel with what might have been curiosity. Or hunger. It was hard to read expressions on a face that existed partially in another dimension. The moment of feeding arrived. The pod's automatic systems positioned it perfectly in front of what scientists assumed was the beast's mouth, a void that made black holes look like pinholes. The child, showing the kind of courage that made hardened military commanders weep, acted exactly like a child meeting a new playmate. They pressed the pod's external communication button and before anyone could stop them, cheerfully announced, "Hi, I brought snacks and my elephant. Do you want to be friends?" The beast's reaction was immediate and unexpected. It made a sound that caused 3 nearby stars to go supernova, not out of violence, but what seemed suspiciously like surprise. Then, with the gentleness of a universal impossibility, it opened what could generously be called its mouth and carefully, oh so carefully, consumed the pod. The assembled fleet watched in horror, awe, and various other emotions that hadn't been named yet. High Commissioner Zixthor's crystalline form vibrated so intensely they briefly transformed into wind chimes. The last transmission from the pod, before it disappeared into the cosmic void, was the child's voice. "Wow, it's like a really big funhouse in here. Hey, is that a—" Static filled the communication channels. The galaxy held its breath. The beast hiccuped, causing a small temporal anomaly. Phase 1 of Operation Child's Play was complete. Now they just had to wait and see if they'd just saved the galaxy or given the beast indigestion. The inside of the Galactic Beast was nothing like anyone had imagined, mainly because anyone who'd previously been inside hadn't lived to file a TripAdvisor review. It was less cosmic horror digestive system and more impossible space mall designed by an architect on psychedelic mushrooms. The child's pod had landed, rather bounced actually, into what appeared to be a vast chamber with walls that rippled like the aurora borealis, had decided to go into interior decorating. The quantum-reinforced hull of the pod had performed exactly as designed, though the engineers probably hadn't anticipated it being used as a cosmic bouncy ball. Environmental analysis complete, chirped the pod's AI, sounding surprisingly chipper for something that had just been swallowed by a space monster. The atmosphere is... Wait, this can't be right. It's perfectly breathable, and the temperature is exactly 72 degrees Fahrenheit? That's oddly specific. The child, already unbuckling their safety harness with the speed of someone who'd just heard the ice cream truck, pressed their face against the window. Look, there are lights, and is that music? Indeed, there was music, if you could call it that. It sounded like someone had taught quantum physics to jazz and then let it improvise. The walls pulsed in sync with the melody, creating patterns that would give mathematicians existential crises. As the child prepared to exit the pod, after carefully adjusting their stuffed elephant's tiny spacesuit, of course, the AI ran one last scan. I'm detecting multiple signs of life. And structures? It appears we're not the first visitors who decided to stick around. The child stepped out onto what felt like solid ground, despite it looking like solidified starlight. And there, in the distance, was what could only be described as a settlement, if settlements were usually built from salvaged spaceship parts and held together by what appeared to be crystallized hope and quantum duct tape. "Hello," called out a voice, and from behind a twisted piece of what might have once been a cruiser's hull emerged a figure. It was a Zishathirian, one of the supposedly lost crew from their failed attack months ago. "Oh, my quantum matrices, a child. They sent a child. That's actually quite brilliant." More figures began emerging from the makeshift settlement. There was a partially disassembled member of the Mechanical Collective, a pair of energy beings from Vega who were using their natural glow as reading lights, and even a very confused-looking void dweller who had apparently been living in what looked like a repurposed escape pod turned cozy studio apartment. "We call ourselves the Survivors Club," explained the Zishathirian, who introduced himself as Commander Plex. "Though lately we've been wondering if survivor is the right word. You see, the beast, it doesn't actually digest anything it swallows. It just sort of keeps us here like some sort of cosmic collector." The child, who had been taking all this in while doing what appeared to be zero-gravity cartwheels, suddenly stopped. "Like my cousin's terrarium. He collects bugs and makes them little homes." The gathered survivors exchanged looks that suggested they weren't entirely comfortable being compared to terrarium insects, but the analogy was unsettlingly accurate. "We've been studying this place," continued a silicon-based scientist who'd introduced herself as Dr. Crystalia. "The beast's internal biology defies every known law of physics, biology, and several other ologies we had to invent just to describe it. It's not just a creature, it's almost like a mobile habitat." The child, now bouncing on what appeared to be a chunk of condensed nebula, asked the question that had apparently never occurred to the assembled greatest minds of the galaxy. "Have you tried talking to it?" Silence fell over the group, broken only by the ongoing quantum jazz soundtrack. "Talk to it?" Commander Plex's face shifted through several impossible geometries as he processed this suggestion. "It's a cosmic entity of unimaginable power and—" "My mum says that's no excuse for bad manners," the child interrupted, already pulling out their space-proof crayons. "Besides, look at how nice it made everything in here. Maybe it's just lonely." The survivors watched in amazement as the child began drawing what appeared to be a hello card on a piece of quantum-stabilized paper. The plan, as it emerged through the child's crayon diplomacy, was elegantly simple. 1. Draw lots of friendly pictures, heavy on the stars and hearts. 2. Write a nice letter explaining that eating planets makes people sad. 3. Suggest alternative hobbies. The child was particularly adamant about teaching the beast how to play hopscotch. 4. Set up a big party to show the beast that friends are better than food. The assembled survivors, each possessing multiple advanced degrees and centuries of combined experience, found themselves nodding along to a plan that essentially amounted to make friends with the cosmic horror using crayons and kindness. Dr. Crystalia's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been laughter. "You know what? We've tried everything else. We've attempted communication through quantum signals, telepathic probes, and even interpretive space dance. Why not try it with finger paintings and friendship bracelets?" Commander Plex, already helping the child organize their crayons by color and several other properties that existed only in quantum space, smiled. "At the very least, it'll be the most colorful apocalypse in history." The child just grinned, carefully drawing what appeared to be the beast, though it looked suspiciously like a happy purple dinosaur, surrounded by hearts. "Don't be silly. It's not the end of the world. It's just the beginning of a really big playdate." The first sign that something was different came when the galactic beast, terror of 17 galaxies and destroyer of countless worlds, started hiccuping rainbow nebulae. Not the normal, terrorizing kind of cosmic phenomena it usually produced, but actual child-drawing-inspired rainbow clouds that made hardened space veterans question their sobriety. The United Species Council's observation fleet maintained their position at what they considered a safe distance, though given the beast's size, safe distance was more of a philosophical concept than a measurable space. Their instruments were recording everything, though most of the readings made about as much sense as a quantum physics lecture delivered by a sugar-rush toddler. Are those stars arranging themselves into smiley faces?" High Commissioner Zixathor asked, their crystalline structure vibrating with confusion. Indeed, several star systems in the beast's vicinity had begun realigning themselves into what unmistakably looked like a cosmic game of connect the dots. The beast's behavior became increasingly erratic or perhaps increasingly playful, depending on your perspective. It started gentle batting at asteroid fields like a kitten with a ball of yarn. Several black holes were observed being used as makeshift jump ropes. A particularly confused research vessel swore they saw it trying to play patter cake with a pulsar. Inside mission control, chaos reigned supreme. Scientists were either having breakthrough moments or nervous breakdowns. It was getting harder to tell the difference. Dr. Xilaxifor had to be sedated after spending 6 hours trying to explain how the beast was violating not just the laws of physics, but also several local ordinances about proper cosmic entity behavior. "Look at these energy readings," exclaimed a frantic analyst, waving data charts that seemed to be drawing themselves in crayon. "The beast's quantum signature is shifting. It's becoming more childlike," suggested an aide, watching as the beast attempted to do what appeared to be a cosmic cartwheel. The mechanical collective's representative sparked nervously. "Our predictive algorithms have crashed 17 times trying to calculate what's happening. The last time they tried, they just output the text error too much fun and started playing something called duck, duck, goose with our firewall protocols." Reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The beast, which had previously been consuming planets with the enthusiasm of a competitive eater at a buffet, was now redecorating them. Several devoured worlds had been spotted being carefully reassembled, though with some creative improvements. One planet was now sporting polka dots visible from space, while another had been given a set of planetary rings that spelled out "hello" in 12 different languages. The hive mind of Betelgeuse, attempting to process all this information at once, accidentally achieved enlightenment for 3 seconds before rebooting with a collective headache. Their final report before the reboot simply read, "Universe.exe has encountered an unexpected giggle." Even the void dwellers, those ancient beings who had seen the birth and death of galaxies, were at a loss. "In all our eons of existence," their elder transmitted, "we have never seen anything quite like this, though we must admit the beast's new habit of turning cosmic radiation into space butterflies is rather charming." The transformation became undeniable when the beast, in what could only be described as a universal gesture of friendship, began emitting a continuous stream of what appeared to be cosmic joy. Scientists would later describe it as a combination of zero-point energy, quantum entangled happiness, and what one researcher swore was the audio equivalent of a child's laughter amplified to galactic scales. High Commissioner Zixathor, watching as the beast attempted to teach a cluster of neutron stars how to dance, finally voiced what everyone was thinking. "We sent a child to save the galaxy, and instead of stopping the beast, they're teaching it how to play." A junior analyst who had been quietly monitoring the situation looked up from their quantum display. "Sir, according to these readings, the beast's destructive power hasn't diminished at all. In fact, it's grown. The difference is—" They paused, double-checking their data. "It's now channeling all that energy into what appears to be the universe's largest game of cosmic hide-and-seek." The council chamber fell silent, save for the distant sound of what might have been a gigantic cosmic entity attempting to whistle a tune that suspiciously sounded like "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." The truth about the galactic beast's nature came from, of all places, a crayon drawing. The child had covered nearly every available surface inside the beast with artwork, turning the cosmic horror's interior into something resembling a kindergarten art exhibition held inside a kaleidoscope. But it was one particular drawing that caught Dr. Crystalia's attention, a simple picture showing the beast surrounded by smaller versions of itself. "By all the quantum harmonics," she whispered, her crystalline structure flickering with sudden understanding. "It's not an adult, it's an infant." The revelation spread through the survivors' settlement like a sugar rush through a birthday party. Commander Plex, who had been helping the child organize a welcome to the neighborhood party for the beast, nearly phased through 11 dimensions at once from shock. The child, meanwhile, had apparently known this all along. "Well, duh," they said, carefully coloring what appeared to be a family tree of cosmic entities. "That's why it keeps putting everything in its mouth. My little brother does the same thing. Mum says it's a phase." Inside the beast, the evidence was everywhere once they knew what to look for. The supposedly terrifying void scales were actually baby down. The reality-warping episodes were cosmic tantrums, and the planet consumption wasn't hunger, it was curiosity, the universal constant of every toddler encountering something new. The quantum jazz that had been playing throughout the beast's interior suddenly shifted, becoming something more akin to a lullaby, if lullabies could alter the fundamental constants of the universe. The child had taught the beast about music, and now it was trying to compose its own songs. "But where are its parents?" asked the partially disassembled member of the mechanical collective, who had been repurposed into a rather impressive crayon holder. The question echoed through the transformed interior, causing ripples in the aurora-like walls. The answer came through what the survivors would later describe as the universe's most impressive game of charades. The beast, responding to the child's persistent attempts at communication, began projecting images into its interior walls. They watched in awe as the story unfolded. A young cosmic entity, separated from its family while playing hide-and-seek between dimensions, had gotten lost in this particular universe. All its planet-eating and star-juggling hadn't been malicious, it had been trying to get someone's attention, like a lost child pressing every button in an elevator. The child, who had been teaching the beast the finer points of finger painting, which at this scale involved using entire nebulae as paint, had succeeded where every weapon and strategy had failed. They had given the beast something it desperately needed, a friend who understood what it was like to play, to learn, and to sometimes feel a little lost. The communication breakthrough came during what was supposed to be snack time. The child had been sharing their quantum-stabilized cookies, because even in the face of cosmic revelations, snacks are important. When the beast attempted to reciprocate, it carefully created a tiny galaxy, swirled it into a spiral, and offered it like a cosmic lollipop. "Thank you," the child said, watching the miniature galaxy spin. "But you know, instead of eating planets, you could collect them, like trading cards, and we could help you make friends with the people living on them." The beast's response was to instantly transform an entire section of itself into what could only be described as a cosmic display case, carefully placing several recently eaten planets inside, their civilizations intact and now sporting some creative decorative improvements. Dr. Crystalia, recording everything with scientific instruments that had long since given up trying to make sense of things, finally understood. It's not just learning to communicate, it's learning to play nicely. The child isn't just teaching it games, they're teaching it empathy. Commander Plex, who had been monitoring the beast's quantum signatures, suddenly straightened up. These energy patterns, they're changing. It's not just mimicking play, it's genuinely evolving. The child's influence is fundamentally altering its understanding of interaction with smaller beings. The child naturally put it much more simply. Everyone needs a best friend. Even super big space monsters who accidentally eat planets because they don't know any better yet. Through the transformed interior of the beast, the quantum jazz had evolved into something new, a harmony of cosmic proportions, mixing the beast's natural frequencies with tunes the child had taught it. The walls pulsed with colors that told stories of friendship, understanding, and the universal truth that sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest gestures. The gathered survivors watched as their cosmic prison transformed into something entirely new, a bridge between the incomprehensibly vast and the intimately small, built by nothing more complex than a child's ability to see past size, power, and terror to find the simple need for connection that exists in all beings, even ones the size of galaxies. The United Species Council's emergency session to address the beast's transformation turned into something more closely resembling a galactic block party. The beast, now officially dubbed the Cosmic Caretaker, though the child insisted on calling it Sparkles, had become the universe's largest mobile playground and diplomatic center. The transformation was complete. Where once planets feared its approach, they now held lotteries for the privilege of being temporarily collected into the beast's elaborate interior display cases. Each visited system got the special treatment custom-designed asteroid rings, artistically arranged radiation belts, and the occasional quantum physics-defying decoration that made scientists need to lie down with a cold compress. High Commissioner Zixathor, addressing the assembled representatives, struggled to maintain their usual diplomatic gravitas. We sent a child to save the galaxy, expecting either salvation or annihilation. Instead, we got interior decoration on a cosmic scale. The beast, now sporting what appeared to be a bow tie made from condensed starlight, the child's idea, of course, had become an ambassador of play across the cosmos. It still consumed the occasional planet, but now it was more like a cosmic renovation service. Planets went in dull and came out fabulous, complete with improvements that violated several laws of physics, but made everyone happier. The child's parents, initially worried about their offspring's extended playdate with a cosmic entity, were now fielding calls from across the galaxy asking for parenting advice. "We just taught them to share," the mother explained to a bewildered council of alien educators. "We had no idea that would translate to sharing entire solar systems." The implications for the future were staggering. The beast had opened up entirely new fields of study, including quantum playology and cosmic child psychology. The Mechanical Collective had to create an entire new division just to study the physics of fun, while the Void Dwellers began offering meditation retreats inside the beast's now peaceful interior. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed itself. If a human child could befriend a cosmic horror with crayons and kindness, what other mysteries could be solved with a little less fear and a little more friendship? As the child, now the youngest recipient of the Galactic Peace Prize, explained during the award ceremony, while their best friend carefully arranged stars to spell out "Congratulations" in the background. Sometimes the scariest things in the universe just need a hug and maybe some cookies, but mostly the hug. The stuffed elephant, still wearing its tiny spacesuit, now sat in a place of honor in the beast's central chamber, a reminder that in a universe of infinite possibilities, the most powerful force might just be a child's ability to see the best in everyone, even in a planet-eating cosmic entity with questionable table manners.